This is Josh White with JW Math Tutoring, and today's video is going to go over the calculator section from the March 2023 SAT QAS. It was given on March 11th, 2023, here in the US. For solutions and explanations to the no calculator section from this test, please see the link in the description below. And for a copy of this test to work along, please see also the link to the PDF file in the description below. So let's go ahead and get started.
But life is a dream the calculus could never predict.
Alright, just before we begin, the March 2023 math section of the SAT, the section 4 calculator part, just a couple things to keep in mind. First, of course, if you like this video and my other videos, please do click the thumbs up on it and subscribe to my channel and sign up for notifications. And the second thing is, this video will most likely be longer than the allotted time for this section. And that's because I like to show multiple methods that you can use to solve some of the problems, including using the graphing calculator. So just keep in mind that this is not going to be within the 55 minutes that you're required to complete this section in, but that's because for some questions I might show 2 or 3 possible different ways to solve it. Alright, so with all that said, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, and also one last reminder, the PDF copy of this test, the link to that can be found in the description below. Alright, so starting off here, question number 1 from the calculator section. Here you have a graph. Looks like kind of an exponential function, or technically exponential decay function, since it's decreasing as it goes down to the right. And they just want to know after what point will the value of this bus be half of the purchase price. So the purchase price is 100,000, basically your y-intercept up here. Half of that is just going to be 50,000. So 50,000, it looks like, is like right around here. Notice on this x-axis scale for time, each grid mark is like 2 years, not 1 year. So, this is 2, 4, 6. So it's like basically around 6 years. It's a little bit past that, but that's the answer that's closest. So the correct answer is just letter B, and that's it. Basically just reading a graph. 2, you can just punch this one into the graphing calculator. It's basically just going to be 0.90, which is the decimal equivalent of 90%, times 80. Of course, means multiplication. If you do this, you should get 72 as your answer. Correct answer is letter B. Now, question number 3. Here we have another graph. Kind of looks like an exponential function again, or maybe it's quadratic. Oh, they do tell us down here. Yeah, it is exponential. And they want to know, okay, for which year is the average ticket price closest to $40? All right, so I go up here to $40, and then I go over, I go right to here. So this is the point which has a predicted ticket price of $40. And then when I go down here, okay, it looks like on the x-axis it's like somewhere around maybe 32, maybe 33. But note, these are the number of years after 1959. So you have to take 1959 and you have to add either 32 or 33 to it. So if you do that, if you add 32 to it, you would get 1991. Notice that's technically not an answer, but 1992 is very close to it. So it looks like 33 is the actual value you're looking for, because if you add that, that would give you 1992. So letter C, 1992 is the correct answer. All right, now questions 4 and 5 both revert to this little table up here, which has prices of items. So for number 4, you're told that you purchased these eggs and potatoes for a total of 80 cents, and you purchased 24 eggs. So how many potatoes, did she purchase? So you can set up an equation for this. Basically it's going to be, we know she purchased 24 eggs. Now, since the eggs price is for 12 eggs or for a dozen, technically we divide that by 2 to get the number of dozen eggs. So we're going to multiply here 37 cents times 2, because 12 eggs times 2 would be 24. In other words, 2 dozen eggs times 37 cents for, per dozen or per 12. And then you could add to that the pounds of potatoes. So it's 2 cents per pound, and then just X is going to be the number of pounds. And you could set that equal to 0.80, 80 cents, price you paid. So now you go ahead and solve this out. This is just going to be 74 cents, and you're going to subtract that on both sides. You're going to get 0.02x equals 0.06, and then you would just divide, and you should end up with x equals 3. So correct answer is going to be letter A. Now, alternately, you could back solve this. So you would basically just punch in, let's say on the calculator, 0.37 times 2 plus zero point zero 0.02, and then go through your answer choices, hit enter, and see, does it equal 80 cents? Now, for letter A, it does, so therefore you wouldn't have to do any more work after that. But if it didn't, you'd move on to answer choice B and C and so on. Now for 5, here they give you a description of situation, and they basically want to know what is the system of equations, that represents this or matches it. So we know that S pounds of sugar, P pounds of potatoes for a total of 16 cents, and we know their total weight was 4 pounds. So S plus P, S represents pounds, P represents pounds. We know the total weight also represents pounds. So those are all the same units. So S plus P equals 4, like that's the total weight of the thing. That's going to be one of the equations. So we can get rid of this, we can get rid of this, because these both have it in it. Now the question basically comes, what about the other equation? This one is dealing with the price. So 16 cents is the total price that was paid. And the way we would find that is we'd multiply, the price of each item times the number of pounds. So if we just scroll up here to look at the table, we can still see the answer choices below. Notice that the price per pound are 0.06 or 6 cents, but written in dollar form. And for potatoes, 0.02 or 2 cents. So we want to take those and we want to multiply them by S and by P, and then set that equal to 0.16. Because 0.16 is written in dollar format, that's why we want to keep it as 0.06 and 0.02. So answer A is correct. B is not correct because on the right side you have a dollar format right here, 16 cents, but as in dollar format. Whereas on the left side, you have the prices listed in cent format. Technically 6 cents and 2 cents. They need to be in dollar format. So correct answer for 5 is going to be letter A. All right, next to that, we have problem number 6. Here we have a graph, and we are given 3 points, and it wants to know which of these is the correct graph for this polynomial. So all we have to do is look at some of these points and just match them up. So notice for x values, we've got -2, 1, and 2, and they should all be the same. They should all be -2 at all 3 of those things. Okay, so just keep in mind -2, 1, 2. They all have the same y value of -2. All right, so let's start off with A. We're just going to basically do process elimination here. Okay, let's go to x is -2. Is the y value -2? No, it looks like it's +3. That one's wrong. Let's go to B. Let's go to -2. Is the x value is the y value -2 here? Nope, it's +2. That one is wrong. Let's go to C. -2. Now, is the y value here -2? No, it looks like it's down here around like -6 maybe. That one is wrong. By process of elimination, it's going to be letter D. But you can also confirm it by going to -2, -2. Yup. 1, -2. Yup. And 2, -2. Yup, it's right there. This one is correct. Letter D is the correct answer. Moving on to the next page, we have problem number 7. Here we have a scatter plot with some points on it, but also a best fit line. And it just says that x is, what's the predicted y value when x is 2? So all we do is go to where x is 2, go up. What's the y coordinate here? And it's just 3. So correct answer is B, 3, and that's it. Nothing more. Just asking for the y coordinate for when x is equal to 2. Now moving down here to number 8, ask about the volume of a cylinder. So all you're going to do is just take the volume formula for a cylinder, pi r squared h, plug in the radius, plug in the height, and that's it. So we've just got pi times the radius is 5 squared. We've got the height, which is 6. Okay, 5 squared is 25. 25 times 6 is 150. You can use a calculator if you can't do it in your head, which is perfectly fine. The volume for this is going to be 150 pi. That's it. You're just plugging values into a formula and working them out, doing order of operations. And that's it. No more work needed after that. All right, next, number 9. Here we have a graph, or basically some possible answer choices that are graphs of lines. And they tell us some information about this functions where m, its slope, is greater than or equal to 1. So the key takeaway is that the slope is positive. And also, we know that the b value is between, the y-intercept is between -7 and +7. So there's multiple ways you could go through and eliminate these. And again, I'm just going to do process of elimination. So, for example, a, the y-intercept, I'm going to look at that first. Notice it's down here. It's between -10 and -15. It is not between -7 to +7. So A is wrong. Okay, let's look at B. The y-intercept could be okay, but the slope is not going to be equal to +1, or greater than or equal to 1, excuse me. For the slope to be greater than or equal to 1, like if it started here, say it's at like 2.5, it would have to go up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. So, for example, as it goes up here to 2, as it goes to the right 2, it would have to go up 2. So that would need to be at like maybe 4.5, or maybe this is 3, and it would even need to be 5. Or another way to look at this is, say you start here at 0, and say you start and go here to 4. Okay, if you're going to the right 4, for the slope to be at least 1, you also have to go up at least 4. That means if you're at 3, you would have to end up somewhere here at 7, to go up 4. That's wrong. The slope, it's too flat. It's not large enough. Going down to C, this one has a y-intercept between -7 and +7, so it could be correct. And if we look at the slope here, let's see if we can find some exact points that it's on. It looks like maybe here is 1, and I mean, some of these are kind of close. I'm just going to guess here. So it looks like we go to the right 1, 2, 3, and we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe. So like 5/3. That's greater than 1. So therefore, this could be the correct answer. So we keep it for now. And then if we look at D, the y-intercept is fine. It's between 7 and -7. But it looks like the slope is also going to be less than 1. Because notice here I have 2 points right on the grid marks. I go to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. I go up only 1. Therefore, my slope would be 1 over 4. That is not greater than or equal to 1. Cross it out. C is going to be the correct answer here. The only one that meets both criteria. Now, moving on to question number 10. This one, there are technically two ways you could do this. So the first way would be to set up a proportion where we would say weight on Earth, 540 newtons, weight on the moon, 90 newtons. Okay, so Earth is on top, moon weight on bottom. Now, on Earth, this other astronaut weighs W newtons. We can actually get rid of these because these units will cancel. And what do they weigh on the moon? Well, that's what we don't know, so that's our x. Now, if we cross multiply this and solve for x, we get 540x equal to 90w, and then divide by 540. So we get x equals basically 90 divided by 540 is going to be 1 over 6. So the correct answer for this problem is going to be letter D. It's just W over 6. Now, if you didn't know that 90 over 540 was just W over 6, just a brief review, go to the graphing calculator and we go to the fraction menu by hitting alpha y equals. So now I'm just going to enter as a fraction vertically 90 over 540. I'm going to hit enter. And notice it just reduces it to 1 over 6. Okay, so that's how you could simplify that fraction if you just did not know that 90 goes into it evenly off the top of your head. Now, an alternate way to do this would be to pick a number for W, and then find out what x would have to be, and then based on that, go ahead and plug the w value into your answers and see which one turns out to be correct. All right, so just as an example, what I did is I chose a value of w, say the weight on Earth is 100. Okay, so then if you basically solve this out, go ahead and solve this proportion. But now it might be, see, some people might have difficulty with the fact of solving a proportion when there's multiple variables in it. So what I'm saying is I would set a proportion now, but there would be one number and one letter. So now when you go to solve it, you would get 540x, but instead of being equal to like something with a w in it, instead it's equal to 9,000. Divide 9,000 by 540. If you do that, what it's going to come out to is basically 16.6, technically 0.6 repeating. And now you go through your answer choices and you see which of these equals 16.6. Well, 6 times 100 is 600, wrong. 0. 0.6 times 100 is 60, wrong. 6 divided by 100 is 0.06, wrong. And then D, 100 divided by 6 is 16.6. That's the correct one. So that's just an alternate approach using picking numbers that could solve this problem as well. All right, questions 11 and 12 deal with this table down here for basically, centuries for books and then also nationalities of different authors. So in number 11, it's talking about a probability, fraction here, and it wants to know, okay, book reference tables written in the 20th century selected at random. So we're only looking at, 20th century or whatever here. The probability is written by British authors 15 over n, which is following describes n. So if you were looking at just these books and it said, what's the probability of selecting a British author? Well, it's number of favorable outcomes, which is 15, over the total number of books, which would technically be, I guess, 28. So n here just represents the total number of books in the 20th century. Okay, it's not a because they tell us here we're only we're looking at books that were written in the 20th century in the problem. So that's why A is out. Again, we want to know the probability of a British author, so that's why N represents the total number of books, not just those by British authors. That's what the 15 represents. And then again, D doesn't make any sense. It's talking about number written by either French or German. No, we want the total number in the denominator for our probability. Now, for number 12, for this one, you can just set up a basic equation. So basically what it's saying is the number of books in the table written by British authors in the 20th century, which is going to be this 15 right here. Because notice, even though this recreation of the test is a little off-center, like this is the British column, this is the French, this is the German. So this number of books, but by British authors, okay, which is 15, is equal sign 39%, 0.39 of D times D. And then it asks for what D is, so you just divide by 0.39. And this D would come out to like 38.46. So which one is closest here? Well, it's letter C, obviously 38. You could also do this one by back solving. Just take 39% of these answers and see which one is equal to 15. 0.39 times 6? No. 0.39 times 15? No. 0.39 times 38? Yes, that one comes out to, it's going to be close to 15, not exactly 15. It's going to be probably it's going to be a little bit under it, but it's still close enough that it's the correct answer. So you could also use back solving on this one. All right, next question, number 13. For this problem, we want to know basically a unit rate, basically gallons of paint per square foot. So all we're doing is basically taking 3 gallons divided by the total number of square feet, 960 square feet, and then you're just simplifying that, and that's it. And again, you can, if you didn't know that 3 goes into 960 evenly, you could just punch that into the calculator as a fraction on a TI-84 or equivalent model, hit enter, and it's going to come back as 1 over 320. And that's it. So correct answer is letter B. Now 14, this one I'll show you there are actually multiple ways to solve this. The easiest way is to notice that first of all, for this line, for this linear inequality, the actual line part of it has a y-intercept of 3. So that means we could eliminate this, and we could eliminate this, and the slope is positive. So therefore, by process of elimination, it's going to be d, because b has a negative slope. And again, notice I didn't have to do any calculations at all. I didn't have to like pick a test point. I didn't have to try graphing it out, whatever. Just process of elimination, slope, and whatever, so on. Now, you could also graph this on the graphing calculator. I mean, it'd be kind of a pain because you have to like, you have 4 possible answer choices to check. But just to review real quick, so like just to show you if I was going to plot out D, I would put in 5x plus 3 and then go over here, hit enter. Now here's where I can change the inequality symbol. This one is less than, so I want the one that's pointing like down and to the left. Now I can graph it, and it should look pretty similar, to what we see on the screen here. I could adjust my viewing window to make it -5 to 5 for both x and y if I wanted to match it up, but notice this, matches the correct answer. All right, for problem number 15 here. They want to know which of these tables represents a decreasing exponential function. So again, I would use process of elimination. First of all, since it's decreasing, that means the f of x or the y values will get smaller as the x values get larger. So a is out because the values here actually get larger, 1, 2, 4, 8. That is increasing. That is not decreasing. B is decreasing, so we keep it. C is increasing, get rid of it. And D is increasing, so we keep it. Okay, so now the question is, which of these is an exponential function? It's going to be B because the values here are not decreasing by the same amount each time. In D, notice how it's going like -8 between each of the values. That is an indication of a linear function or a line, that you have the same slope between every pair of points, okay? Whereas here, it's like -4, -2, -1, and so on. So this is an indication that you have an exponential function, not a linear function, which is what D is. So the correct answer is letter B. All right, moving along, we have number 16 here at the top. Here is a table with a bunch of values, and they want to know what the median value is. So you could write all these out. First thing I would note is that since there's 9 years, if you divide 9 by 2, that's 4.5. And you round that up, that means the median value will be the 5th value, going from either smallest to largest or largest to smallest. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to go through, I'm going to cross them off. So like, let's see, this would be value 1. This would be value 2. This would be value 3. Let's see, next smallest, this would be value 4. Looks like the next one, which will be value 5 right here, this is going to be our median, 114.9. Therefore, that's our middle value, and correct answer is B. For 17, here you're given some linear equations, and they want to know which one has no solution. So hopefully remember that for a linear equation to have no solution, all the variables will cancel, and you will be left with 2 different numbers on both sides of the equal sign. So that's going to be A, because when you subtract x on both sides, they both cancel out, and you get 0 equals 1, which is false. That is not a true statement, so this equation has no solution. There is no value for x you can plug in that would ever make 0 equal 1. The rest of these either are going to be one solution, like in B, you're just going to subtract the 2x over, and you would just get negative x equals 2, and then you could finish solving that, but there is a solution. C is technically infinite solutions because you get 0 equals 0, or all real numbers, however you want to refer to it, because the variables cancel out, but the numbers do as well. So C is not no solution, it's infinite solutions, and then D is going to have one solution as well. So correct answer for this one is just letter A. All right, moving up to the top of the page, we have number 18. So there's two ways you could do this. The way that they kind of like want you to do this is they want you to notice that if you just add 5 to both sides, you get x plus 9 equals 30. What does x plus 9 equal? Well, 30. That's it. Correct answer A. Move on to the next question. If you didn't recognize that, if you didn't see that, what you could also do is you could just finish solving it and you could get x equals 21. But then you do have to remember they don't want x, they want x plus 9. So 21 plus 9 is 30. Correct answer again A, 30. So whichever way you do it, you get the same answer. Now 19 here, there are multiple ways to do this. The first way is to use the shortcut formula, which is that the sum of the solutions to any quadratic equation is always equal to negative b over a. So here a is 1, b is negative 1. So therefore the sum of the solutions would be the opposite of negative 1 over positive 1, or positive 1 over positive 1, or just 1. So the correct answer is letter C. Now, if you didn't remember that formula, you could instead solve this either by factoring or by graphing. And it's going to factor as x minus 4 times x plus 3 equals 0. You get x equals 4, you get x equals negative 3, and then you could just add these together. 4 plus negative 3 is 1. Same answer, letter C, positive 1. Again, you could use your calculator too if you wanted. If you couldn't remember how to factor it for some reason, you can go and you could graph it out, and then you could use the 0 function, and you could get the two intercepts, or two zeros, two solutions, whatever you want to call them. It's all the same thing that way. Positive 4, negative 3, and then you could just add them together. All right, number 20. Here we have a radical, and it's basically asking which of these is equivalent to this. So this one is actually a very basic problem. Really, all you're going to do here is you're going to simplify, because the a squared, you could technically make it a times a, so you have a pair of a's. So just one a is going to go outside. And then for b to the sixth, I mean, there's multiple ways you could do this. You could write b out like 6 times, or you could make it like b cubed times b cubed, and you could say, oh, I have a pair of b cubes, and they will go outside. Or the way that I like to teach students is you take the index of the radical, which for this problem is 2, and you divide that into each of the exponents. So like 2 goes into 2 one time. That's your outside power. Okay, so that means a to the first is outside, and the remainder is 0. That tells you how many a's are left inside. Well, none. And then with b, 2 goes into 6 3 times. That's your outside power, so b to the third outside, and your remainder is going to be none, so that means there are no b's left inside. Correct answer here is just letter B, a b to the third. Next up, we have problem number 21. Here we have a dot plot, and they're basically asking us to compare the values of the mean and median for the original 9 values, and then a new set of data with the 46 taken out. So, for the mean, or for the average, if you look at these values, notice they're mostly between 38 and 41, except for 46, which we would probably technically classify as an outlier. So 46 is going to be above the mean or average value. So if you take that out, if you eliminate this, and now you're just adding up these other 8 values, the mean is going to decrease, okay? Because you're taking away a value which is larger than the mean or the average. Now, if you aren't able to recognize that or aren't able to understand that, that's fine. Just add up all the values on the calculator and compare the two means. So I'll just tell you, for all 9 values, if you add them up, you get 363. You divide that by 9, it comes out to 40.3. For the 8 values, you add them up, you get 317, divided by 8, of course, and it comes out to 39.625. So that just confirms that the mean for data set A will be larger than the mean for data set B. So in other words, A is going to be larger than Y. Okay? So if you look at these answer choices, notice through process of elimination, we already know that the answer is going to be D. We don't even have to worry about calculating the median for both of them. But Just to confirm that the median is equal, I will go through and just show you that the median is the same value. So for the first 9 values, the median is going to be the fifth value, because 9 divided by 2 is 4.5, and then we round up to get 5. So that means we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then from the larger side, 1, 2, 3, 4. Median is going to be 40. So the median value for the original thing is going to be, so B is 40. Now if we want to do it for the 8 values, let me just erase these. So now we have 8 numbers. That means the median is going to be technically the average of values 4 and 5. So I would go 1, 2, 3, and then I have 4 and 5 right here. They're both 40. Obviously, the average of 40 and 40 is still 40. Therefore, the median doesn't change. Z is also 40. Just confirms correct answer is letter D. All right, at the bottom of the page, we have basically a problem that's just giving you 2 points and asking you to figure out what the equation of this line is. Even though it might look more complicated than that, that's really all it's asking. Your 2 points are going to be negative 2 comma 3 fourths, or you could make it 0.75, and 3 comma 9 halves, or again, you could make it 4.5. So the fractions are kind of annoying, but you can do also this entire problem on the calculator. First, I'll show you like the technical mathematical way you would do it. So, for example, if you were going to do this by hand, we would find the slope. So I'm just going to subtract 9 halves minus 3 fourths, my y values on top, and then 3 minus negative 2 in the denominator. If you do that, what you will get on top is going to be 15 over 4 by getting a common denominator. On the bottom, you get positive 5. This whole thing will end up reducing to 3 over 4, okay? Just do this all on the calculator. Don't try to do this, in your head. So the slope is 3 fourths. Now we would take one of the points and we would plug it in. I'm going to take this point right here. So I would say my y value equals my slope, or my m, times my x plus b. So that just means 9 halves equals 9 fourths plus b. So b is just going to be equal to whatever 9 halves minus 9 fourths is. Again, do this on the calculator. The answer is just going to come out to be 9 fourths, or 2.25. So we've got a slope of 3 fourths. We've got a y-intercept of 9 fourths. Correct answer is going to be letter A. All right, now here's how we can do this entire problem on the graphing calculator. So I'm going to go into the stat menu, and I'm going to use, basically what I'm going to use is the lin-reg function, or linear regression function. It's just going to basically find the best fit line between these 2 points. So first thing I'm going to do is edit my L1 and L2 values. Here I put in the x values and the y values. So I'm going to put in negative 2 first, and then I'm going to put in 3. And then next to those, I'm going to enter their corresponding y values. I'm going to put them in as decimals because I'm not sure if you can enter fractions on this screen. So just to be safe, I'm going to just type the decimal equivalents. If you didn't know the decimal equivalents, of course, just do that first on the home screen and just, jot them down. Okay, so now that I've got them entered in, I hit the stat menu, I go back to calc, and I go down to 4, lin reg ax plus b. Hit enter. I'm now back at the home screen, sort of. Scroll down to calculate. Your x list should be L1, your y list should be L2. Hit enter. Okay, boom, there's the answer. The a value represents m, or the slope, so the slope is 0.75. The b value represents your y-intercept, 2.25. Again, if you didn't know what these were in terms of fraction form, you could go back to the home screen and you could type them in and then hit the arrow, go math option 1 frac, and that would convert each of them to fractions. But hopefully you recognize that at least 0.75 is not the same as 15 over 4. So you would eliminate C and D, right away. Okay. Moving on now to question number 23. So for this one, they give you the function up here. Again, it's a linear function, it's a line, and they ask which of the following is the graph of it. And notice they're here restricting the x values to between 68 and 80. So this one you could graph it out on the graphing calculator, and you could set your window to 68 and 80, and you could see which one matches. But I would probably go through and just do process of elimination to figure out which one is correct. So notice a couple things. First of all, the slope value is positive. and the b value is negative. So the y-intercept is negative, the slope is positive, right? Notice for 23, we do have a positive slope. The y-intercept value, or for a, excuse me, the y-intercept value, it's kind of tough to say because like the graph doesn't, the graph starts here at 66, so we'd have to like sketch this all the way over here to see if it's negative. So for right now, we keep it, but we can look also further. We can look at the slope value further when we move on. Looking at B right below it, again, same thing. The slope is kind of flat, but impossible to say about the y-intercept value. C has a negative slope, so get rid of that right away. And now we're down here to D. And D, we have a positive slope. The y-intercept value looks like it will definitely be negative. But again, we don't know if it's going to be the exact value that we're looking for, which is like, what, negative 2.9. Okay, so now what I would do for this problem is just pick a value, like say 80. Plug that into the problem and just see which graph it matches. And you could actually do this ahead of time without even looking at the slopes or the y-intercepts. If you want to go straight to this, again, that's perfectly fine. So if we plug in 80 for x here, we should get, for our corresponding y value, 19.5. Okay, so in other words, we're looking for the point 80 comma 19.5. So A looks like it could be correct. B, so we keep it for now. B is obviously not correct because the 80 value is up here at like almost 25. So cross it out. And we go down here. We go to letter D. And we have 80 as up here something like 35. So basically by process of elimination, it looks like the correct answer for this one is just going to be letter A. All right, now for question 24, they ask for the interpretation of the point 0.28. Again, remember the equation of the function was f of x equals 0.28x minus 2.9. Okay, so they're just asking what does this slope of 0.28 mean? All right, and the slope is just your rate of change, or in other words, the slope is how much does the y change based on a 1 unit change in the x value. So if we look here at some of these answers, like the first one, maximum mass of seeds, no, slope is not any related to the maximum value of the function. Same thing in B, maximum shoot length, no. Now C and D look pretty similar, except one is talking about a 1 centimeter difference in shoot length and the difference in and then 0.28 difference in mass, and D is the opposite. A 1 milligram difference in mass, difference in shoot length will be 0.28. So here's where you need to go back and just look at the function and see, okay, the function f models the length, blah, 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 known as shoot length. So in other words, f, or in other words, y, whatever you want to call it, is basically the shoot length, and x represents the mass. So that means for the slope, the interpretation is a 1 unit change in x, or a 1 unit change in the mass, since they told us x was mass, will result in this change in the y value. So the correct answer is going to be letter D. A 1 milligram difference in the mass will result in a difference of the 0.28 centimeters in the shoot length, or in the y value. So correct answer for this one is going to be letter D. Now for 25, here we have some frequency tables, and we're basically comparing the median of each of these two data sets. This one's actually not going to be too difficult though, because there aren't very many values in each of these. So if we just add them up, notice we've got 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 4 is 7, 9 values in each. That means the median will be the fifth value, just like that dot plot, back in problem number 21. So all we need to do is count and see where does the fifth value occur. Okay, so in data set 1, we've got 1, and and then plus 2, we're up to 3 total. And then here we get up to 7 total, so that means the fifth value occurs right here. So the median for data set 1 is 6. For data set 2, 2 plus 3, we're already up to 5. That means the fifth value occurs right here at 4. So let's look at our answer choices. The median of data set 1 is greater than the median of data set 2. Therefore, the correct answer for this one is going to be letter B. Okay, moving back up to the top of the page, problem number 26. Here we have basically an exponential function, and they tell us some information about the situation. We want to figure out what the equation actually looks like. So first of all, there's a couple different ways you could do this. The theoretical way to look at this is to basically realize, like, okay, whenever something doubles, you're multiplying its value by 2. Okay, so since it takes 664 years for it to double, basically, when you look at the exponent, whenever you're going to, like, when you look at the various options up here and you take x, which is the number of years, you need essentially every 664 years to be a doubling thing. So what I mean by that is, so you got 664, 1328, for example. These would be like the first two, things. Like, for example, after 664 years, it would double. And then after 1328 total years, it would have doubled again. So when you look at these possible answer choices and you go to, like, plug these in, for example, what you're looking for is overall, like, for example, 2 to the first for the first doubling, and then like 2 to the second for the, next doubling. Or in other words, it can be multiplied by 4. So C is the only possible answer choice where this makes sense. Like, if you would potentially plug these values in or look how they would work out. Like, A, the numbers would be way too large because you're multiplying 664 times each of these. B, it actually gets smaller. Like, the first one does work correctly, but if you go to future ones, like if you plug in 1328, then it's 2 to the 1/2 power. It's not 2 squared. C is the correct one. And then D is basically adding these values. So again, it's just going to be way too large. So that's kind of like the theoretical way to solve this. But an alternate way you could do this is by picking numbers. And so what I mean by that is pick a value of number of years for x where we know how many doublings would occur. So what I did is I let x equal the 1328. Okay? That means that the population of trees would have doubled twice, because after 664 years it would have doubled once, and then after another 664 it would have doubled twice. Okay? That means for whatever number that we start with, let's just say, you can just let n equal whatever. You could just let n equal 1, to be honest, with it. So that means after all this, after 2 doublings, like 1 is going to double to 2 and 2 is going to double to 4, right? So 1 to 2, and then 2 is going to double to 4. So after 1328 years, you would expect 4 total trees. So now when you go down to the answer choices, n is 1, so we can just, whatever, get rid of that. That's not going to change anything. And now you just could work the rest out on the calculator. So again, if you look at like A and D, you should hopefully be able to realize those numbers are just going to be way too small. Or excuse me, way too big. So we've got 2 to the, and then in A, we've got 664 times 1328. Okay, it's overflow because it's like too large of a number. So the calculator won't even do it. So that's obviously not the right answer. Okay, then if you look at 2, you've got 664 divided by 1328. Do we get 4? No, we don't. It's wrong. If we do C, you'll see that it's correct because it's going to be 1328 divided by 664. Okay, we get 4. That checks. And again, for D, it's going to be way too big. Probably going to give us an error again. Put the exponent in correctly here. Okay, again, yeah, we get an error. So obviously it's wrong, ignore that. So you could use picking numbers here. Basically, you're going to pick a number for the number of trees, which I just chose 1 because that's a very simple, easy number. Figure out how many you would expect after 2 doublings. So 1 to 2, 2 doubles to 4. Then pick the x value for the number of years that corresponds to that. 2 doublings would be 2 664-year periods, which is 1,328 years. And then plug those into the answer choices, and obviously C is the one that works out to be correct. All right, let's look next at 27 below it. This is another one where I would use picking numbers as the main strategy here, because if you just take this out, so it's like p% of x is 13. So I just chose, let's see, I let p equal to be 50, and therefore I've got 50%, which is 0.50, of x equals 13. So I solve that equation, and I find out x is equal to 26. Okay? So now when I go through these things, when I plug in 50 for p, which of these is equal to 26? Well, it's obviously not A. 13 times 50 is not 26. 13 times 50 divided by 100, B is not 26. 100 times 50, which is going to be 5,000 divided by 13 is not 26. It's actually going to be letter D, 100 times 13 divided by P. Now, just to show you why that actually works out, it's because if you take the um, equation and you actually just like do it with the P, so just put in P here for right now, P times X equals 13, okay, and then you solved this for X. Notice you get X equals 13 over P, but here's the thing, P is in the given problem the percentage. So if you actually want to convert this to a decimal, you would have to basically like divide the P by 100. And that 100 that you divide P by would technically flip to the top and become 100 times 13 over P. It's basically like you had this, 13 divided by P divided by 100, and then you do state change flip, and it becomes 13 times 100 over P. So that's how you get it, kind of the theoretical way, but picking numbers is so much faster and easier to do this one. All right, now moving on to the next problem, we have problem number 28. So for this problem, um, what I would do, and there's multiple ways you could do this. Um, First, I'm going to show you kind of the long, I guess what we call the traditional way, and then I'll show you also how you could back solve it. So we know the figures of the pool, so it's like we have one here, which is like this is 20 and this is 25, and then there's like x, added on here, x here, okay, x here. So basically it tells us the combined area is 546, and then now the combined area would be the total length and total width with the border included. And that's just going to be 25 plus 2x, because you have to add x on both top and bottom, and then 20 plus 2x, because you have to add x on both left and right. And that's equal to 546. This, you go ahead and you FOIL it out, and you'll end up with 4x squared plus 90x plus 500. Technically, I switched the order, of the terms. I just put the x squared term first and the number term last, and the two combined middle terms in the middle. Okay, and that's equal to 546. And then if you subtract that, you get 4x squared plus 90x minus 46 equals 0. At this point, you could go ahead and factor it. You could also, if you think it's easier, you could divide everything by 2 if you wanted to. You could make it 2x squared minus 45x minus 23 equals 0. And then if you go ahead and factor it, okay, you're going to have 2x and x. You're going to have a plus and a minus. The minus is going to be here. Let's see, the plus is going to be here. And the only factor of 23 are 1 and 23. So it looks like we get x equals, oh, sorry, this is plus, excuse me, it made a slight numerical error. this should be minus, this should be plus. So we get negative 23 and we get positive 1/2, which comes from the 2x minus 1 equal to, setting that equal to 0 and solving. Okay, so what's the value of x? Well, obviously it's not negative 23, it is positive 1/2. Now, even though I did this fairly quickly, this is still a significant amount of work here. You got to FOIL it out, then you got to get everything equal to 0, then you got to be able to factor it or use quadratic formula. It's not something that can be done in that short of a period of time. So here's how you could back solve it. Basically, you would have to come up with, what you would have to do is you're going to take the two expressions, which is like 20 plus 2x and 25 plus 2x. You're going to pick the answer choices, plug them in for x, get the new length and width overall, and then just multiply them. Okay, so for example, I'm going to go to the calculator, and I'm just going to plug in the entire thing in one parenthesis. So we got 20 plus 2 times 0.5. That's my new width if the value of x is 0.5. And then next to that, I've got 25 plus 2 times 0.5. That's my new length. Hit enter. Okay, I get 546. That tells me it's the correct answer, and I'm done. No other work needed. So back solving, again, is another possible way to solve this that could be much quicker. Let's look now at problem 29 right next to it. We have a geometry problem here. All that you know based on the given picture is that you have one pair of congruent angles right here, the vertical angles. So far we have basically one pair of angles, and that's it, nothing else. And it says, which of the following is not sufficient to prove that the two triangles are similar? So real quick review, to prove two triangles are similar, there's AA, SAS, and SSS. Those are the three possible methods. The S's stand for pairs of proportional sides. The A's stand for pairs of congruent angles. So we can go through these and just do process of elimination. If AB and DE are parallel, then that means that this angle is congruent to this angle because they're alternate interiors. Now we have two pairs of congruent angles, therefore AA works. So this just on its own is sufficient. Therefore, this is not the answer to the question, so we eliminate it. All right, now notice that for answer choice B, this is actually the same thing that I just had marked in the diagram, from A. So if you were just told only that D and B are congruent, well, it's the exact same thing that just happened in A, so we have AA and get rid of it. Now, in answer choice C, we are told that the length of AB is equal to DE. So AB and DE. So now we have one side, pair of sides congruent, but that's it. We don't have anything else. We don't have any other angles or any other side. So it looks like this is the correct answer. And then in D, the measure of A is equal to B and D is equal to E. So A and B are congruent, and D and E are congruent. So here's the thing. Notice that here we don't have pairs of angles between like the corresponding triangles congruent, like B to D and A to E. However, it does actually turn out to be the case that they are. Because say that C is like 70 degrees, right? That means you have 110 degrees left to split up between A and B, but also between D and E. If they're each congruent, well, this has to be 55, this has to be 55. Again, this would have to be 55, this would have to be 55. And now we have B and D and A, or A and E. We only need one pair. So this one does prove them to be similar, so the correct answer is letter C. Moving on to question number 30, right below it here. This is just basically a unit conversion problem. You can do this using dimensional analysis. We've got 20 square feet per hour, and we want to convert that just to square meters per minute. So first I'm going to do the 1 hour is 60 minutes conversion. And then I'm going to use the convert to square meters. Now, I have to be careful here. So 1 meter is 3.28 feet. They should actually be reversed. Meters will go on top because that's what we're trying to get the final answer in. The 3.28 feet goes on the bottom. But here's the thing you need to remember. You're either going to have to square this conversion factor or you're going to have to write it twice because this is just a linear conversion factor, 1 meter and 3.28 feet, whereas you're trying to convert from square feet to square meters. So you have to technically use this twice to get square feet to cancel out, or to end up with square meters as your final answer. So now, if you just go through and multiply, notice square feet will cancel out with these 2 feet. Hours cancels out. Now you have square meters on top and minutes on the bottom. So if you just multiply through on top and then divide by whatever, 60 times 3.28, blah, blah, what you get is 0.03098. That's closest to 0.03. Correct answer is going to be letter A. All right, next we have the 8 student-produced response questions, or basically the grid-ins. So for the first one, how many of these months were there 10 or more cars sold? Well, we've got basically April, May, and June, so there are 3. The correct answer that you grid in is just the number 3. That's it, nothing more. Move on to the next question. Okay, number 32 is a weird question because of how it's worded. But it's basically asking for just what's the highest value, what's the highest dot that, value that you see in this. And there's 2 of them, which is fine. There can be 2 maximum values in a data set. It's just 178,000. You only grid in 178 because it tells you here it's in thousands. So it's just 178 and that's it. That's all it's asking for. What's the largest, dot that you see on this number line? For number 33 here, here we have 2 points, and we want to find the equation of the line that goes through those 2 points. This is identical to that earlier problem. I forget what number it was exactly. It looks like it was 22, where you're given 2 points, and you are asked to find the equation. So I'm just going to do this on the graphing calculator again, just to review. Go to the stat menu, go to edit, put in my x value. Actually, it's already in L2, so I'll put in the y value. Oh, it's 1 anyways, doesn't matter. Put in 6, okay. Now, corresponding x value is 1, y value is 2. Okay, back to the stat menu. Go to calc, option 4, linreg. Scroll down. Calculate. Okay, the slope is 5 and the y-intercept is 4. We don't need the y-intercept, we only need the slope, so therefore it is 5. Of course, you could also do this using the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Like, it might just be quicker than all the calculator keys, but in any case, the correct answer you grid in is 5. For 34, on this question, you've got basically a table here with some values. And they want to know, okay, if you select a red maple tree, what's the probability it's from site A? So if you're selecting a red maple tree, that means you have 90 total options to choose from. So in our probability, it's going to be something out of 90. And the number of favorable outcomes, which goes on top, is, well, the number that are from site A, which is 63. So you're not going to grid in this answer because it needs to be reduced or simplified. So you can reduce it down to 7 over 10. You could also put it in as its decimal equivalent, which is just 0.7. And either one of these would be correct, but that is the final answer. That's what you grid in. Nothing more to that question. All right, for 35 here, so the quick and easiest way to do this is to just add the 2 equations together, because notice here they're not asking for x or for y or for the overall solution, but for some random expression, 8x minus 3y. Normally when they do that, you're expected to just either add or subtract the 2 equations as they're given and be able to get that random expression. So if you just add these 2 together, you get 8x minus 3y equals, and well, what does it equal on the right? 61. So the correct answer here is just 61. However, let's say you didn't recognize that. Okay, that's fine. Since this is the calculator section, I'm just going to solve this equation using my graphing calculator, and then I am going to just add the 2 numbers together. So, back at the home screen, I need to enter in a matrix. And I'm going to use matrix properties to solve this. If you are not familiar with this, how to use matrix properties to solve a system of linear equations, check out my other videos. There's a video on using the graphing calculator, basically calculator hacks for the SAT, and that'll show you how to do it. So first I enter in my coefficients for my x's and y's, then I raise that to the negative first power. Then I need another matrix, and this one's going to be 2 by 1. Okay, now I'm going to enter in the two numbers on the right, 44 over 17. Hit enter. Okay, the top number is x and the bottom number is y. So I've got 8 times 8 minus 3 times 1. 61, I get the right answer. And it took me, I don't know, maybe like a minute, 2 minutes, not much more than that just to even solve the whole thing out on the calculator. All right, for problem number 36, you do need to know the formula for density, which is just mass divided by volume. Now, you could possibly figure that out based on the fact that they tell you here in the problem, it says, they tell you these densities are grams per cubic centimeter. Hopefully you recognize grams is a mass and cubic centimeters is a volume. But basically what you're going to do here is these each have the same mass. So you've got 3240 on top, for each of them. One of them has a density of 3. Okay, the other has a density of 2.7. Like this is, sample A, this is sample B. And now the volumes are, well, we don't know. So each of these equations are going to be solved the same way. You just cross multiply them. So it's like 3V equals 3240, where the volume equals that divided by 3. So for A, the volume turns out to be 1080. Just looking at my handwriting. And for B, again, we cross multiply, then we divide by 2.7. The volume turns out to be 1200. So how much greater is the volume for B than for A? Well, you just subtract these. 1200 minus 1080 is just 120. That is the answer you grid in. That's the answer to this problem. For 37, this is actually a very, very short, easy question. You have to know standard form of a circle, and specifically that the number on the right is equal to the square of the radius. So the radius will be the square root of 64, which is just 8. The diameter is 2 times the radius. 2 times 8 is 16. Diameter of this circle will be 16. And that's it. No other work is required. Okay, for 38, there's a couple different things going on here. So basically, since this has exactly one real solution, this quadratic equation, what that means is if you think about the quadratic formula, which I've written out on the screen here, when it has only one real solution, the discriminant, i.e. the expression under the square root, the whole thing, equals 0. Okay? When it's negative, that means there's two complex or imaginary solutions. When it's positive, there are two real solutions. But when it equals 0, that's when there is just one real solution. So what you're going to do is plug in k for b, and then for a and c, we're just going to, of course, plug those values in, and just set it equal to 0, and you're just going to solve for k. So you end up with k squared minus 144, because 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 9 is 144, equal to 0. K squared equals 144. K equals the square root of that. You get plus or minus 12, but it has to be plus 12 because notice it tells us K is a positive constant and it's got a plus sign in the middle here. So even though you technically get two answers to this, the real answer we only need is positive 12. You can't enter negative answers on the test anyways. So correct answer to this problem is basically 12. Now, that was the calculator section from the March 2023 SAT, QAS. It was given on March 11th, 2023, here in the U.S. If you have questions or comments, concerns about any of the problems that were covered here, please leave them down below in this video. Of course, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and sign up for notifications as well. And of course, be on the lookout for more SAT and ACT math related content. I'm going to start also putting up solutions to the digital SAT practice tests that are available in the Blue Book app.